Something that's very interesting to me is at the end of last year, Best Buy announced that they were getting rid of physical uh, movies and media like that. And they already did away with CDs because everything, when it comes to music, is streaming. And that's the same with movies. Movies have moved ultimately to streaming platforms such as Amazon and stuff like that. Well, it's only a matter of time before they stop selling physical games. Now, the bad boy behind me is in question now because are they going to stop selling physical games for the Xbox? It's kind of interesting. So let's get into this article by Kotaku and let's discuss it. Some retailers may be done selling physical Xbox games. Now, mind you, this article is talking about a lot of retailers in Europe, not retailers here in America. According to GameIndustry.biz, several European retailers have seemingly stopped selling physical Xbox games. Preservation is a nightmare in the game industry, especially in some 87% of retro games are swiftly vanishing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that especially for PlayStation, the discs that they're actually printed on over time, they deteriorate to a point where you can't salvage them. So that's why a lot of preservationists want to actually rip said game to be able to preserve it and allow future generations to be able to enjoy said game. With the passing of time and many recent games unceremoniously killed off for reasons, which I think a lot of that has to do with licensing, it seems things may have only gotten worse before they get better, as there are now indications that some European retail stores are no longer stocking their shelves with physical Xbox games due to low sales. Which I completely get. Like, it's so much easier for individuals to be able to, like, stores that is, to stock games. And by stocking games, I mean not physical media, but actually having digital codes that you can go purchase and then bring it home, type it into your little Xbox and go. But guess who you can't do that with? You can't do that with PlayStation. Why? Because the PlayStation storefront is the only place you can buy digital games for your PlayStation. So that's why I don't foresee PlayStation in any capacity going away from their their physical sales, because if they do that, guess what? They have a monopoly then on their whole entire marketplace. So I don't foresee PlayStation going away from any kind of physical media. You're always going to be able to purchase physical games. During a conversation between GameIndustry.biz, IEC James Batchelor, and the site's head Chris Dring on January 30th episode of the Game Industry Microcast, during which they asked their thoughts on Microsoft's latest round of layoffs of nearly 2,000 workers cut from the company on January 25th, where folks reportedly responsible for bringing Xbox games to physical retailers. During gave his 2 cents on the dilemma, stating that several retailers just aren't selling Xbox discs anymore, which I completely agree. I have noticed that the size of the Xbox section has like shrank and shrank and shrank. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And like I said, they're moving more towards the digital cards, the digital downloads and stuff like that. It's much easier to stock cards vice a box. So I was told by a major publisher just before Christmas that across Europe, several retailers have started just not listing Xbox anymore, Dring said. So they just stopped stocking Xbox games because Xbox is such a digital console now that physical performance of Xbox games is really low. And ultimately, when you're selling a console that most people are just downloading games for, it doesn't really benefit the retailer very much. The margins on hardware is often quite small, which I agree. The margins when it comes to to games is very, very small. They're not there. I know it's been 15 years ago I thought about opening a game store in my hometown because at the time we didn't have a GameStop, and the closest GameStop was over 45 minutes away. And when I started crunching numbers and getting numbers, like for every game you'd sell, you get like $3 off of it. And mind you, this was 15 years ago. Like, it's insane to think, like, that that even GameStop is even around right now. I wasn't able to collaborate that during continue. I couldn't find which retailers these are, but it was a proper senior and European publisher boss that said it to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of this is, yeah, Xbox pushing away from physical. Because guess what? If they push away from physical, it also cuts down on the cost of making consoles. Because if they can completely cut out the disk drive on a Series X, I guarantee you they're going to save, you know, they're going to save probably like $75 to $100 right there on making said console. And then on top of that, like, you got to think about it, they're going to still charge the same price, $500, $450, whatever it is for the console. So it's just like the PlayStation with the new PlayStation that they just pushed out, where you can buy the disc drive, but they're passing the cost on to the consumer, which is super shitty. But actually, I don't think physical retailers are going to care. They might sell controllers and things like that, but ultimately, Xbox is so digital. When you think of PC and mobile being that digital dominant, Xbox isn't far behind anymore. Which I do have to agree, and I think it is kind of funny that I was 100%, this was like 9 years ago. I was 100% against digital games, just against them. And yet, we still have digital games out there. And I have changed how I view digital games. Now, within the last year, I've kind of changed my stance on digital games only due to the fact that, and digital media in general, is that, you don't own said game. You don't own any of that stuff. You end up like basically leasing it out. It's just one of those things. Kotaku's reached out to Microsoft for comment. While those of us who have grown up with physical copies of major releases being long established norms, many have found this potential shift surprising. It also feels like things have been heading this way for a long time, which they have. I mean, look how successful Steam is. Many Xbox games, such as Hi-Fi Rush, are digital only for the time being, and some of the console's biggest releases, such as Alan Wake 2 and the upcoming Hellblade 2 Senua Saga, are foregoing physical discs for all digital existence, with reports that Xbox seemingly planned to gut the disc drive from the Series X in November 2024 refresh. We should probably prepare for fewer box games in the future, and that blows. Like I said, they're going to cut the cost of the disc tray. And then they're cutting the cost. They're going to save themselves money, but they're still going to keep it at the same price. How? But hey, it's one of those things. It's that's what big businesses do. They look for ways to cut costs. And one of those ways is going to an all digital format. And they go to an all digital format, they cut the cost of making the consoles, they pass it on to you. Anyways, this was just an interesting article because I have yet to see anybody actually talk about disc games that leaving the big box retailers, and now this is potentially one of the big three, which I'll say the big three, which is Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony, going away from potentially having physical media to all digital. It's only a matter of time before Nintendo falls in with that. But I don't foresee Sony doing that due to the fact that they solely hold the rights to all digital games. I can go right now and I can go buy a digital game for my Xbox over at GameStop, scratch the code, put it into the Xbox, boom, I have it. You cannot do that for Sony games, like PlayStation, period, end of story. That's why they're in a class action lawsuit in Europe right now. They're not going to have that class action lawsuit over here in America just yet. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think this is a good idea, or do you think this is a bad idea for the future of gaming? Whether it's due to the fact that, some of these big corporations are cutting costs and passing it on to you, or do you think that preservations of games, media, period, end of story, is a much bigger thing that we need to focus on so that we can potentially push this on to the future and allow my kids and your kids to enjoy it? let me know. Anyways, y'all take it easy. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you later. Bye.